Hi, and welcome to the 267 podcast. I am Ben, the intern slash whipping boy of 267, and I'm joined by my usual co-host, Mike Palin, the director of 267, and today we are joined by Claire Banham, an employee at 267.
Yeah, what is your job title? Because I think it changes every week.
Yeah, it just depends what mood I'm in. What mood am I in today?
I don't know. I don't really want to get involved in your moods. What do you think your job title is?
I think officially on my business card it is youth worker, project youth worker. I don't know if it's.
You almost need a dry white business card, don't you, to just or a chalkboard one, so you can change your job title.
Today, oh yeah, because like yesterday we had our breakfast and I was.
Networker.
I was hash brown lady. That was
hash
much
brown,
more important.
Hash brown. That should be on a t-shirt.
Yeah, I was the hash brown lady.
Ben, and I sort of resent your whipping boy status.
Yeah?
That's what we got Catherine for.
True.
You don't need to be that.
Yeah, but she gets paid to be the whipping girl.
Does she pass it on to you?
Yeah.
Because she sort of abuses you a little bit, doesn't she?
Yeah, but I mean that's just 18 years of friendship. Anyway,
friendship.
Getting to know Claire a bit more. We're going to do the question that we shall be asking all our guests.
Oh.
Which is, we need the two of you to describe each other in 3 words.
3?
To help us get an image of what
Do those
you
3
think
words
of each
have
other.
to make a sentence?
No, just 3 words.
3 words.
Is it the
They
Bounce
don't have
Castle
to be
skill
nice.
ones again?
Oh.
They don't have to be nice. How can
No.
they not be nice about Claire?
I know, I meant more the other way around.
What? She doesn't have to say anything nice about me?
Yes.
No, he pays me, Ben. He
That's
pays
true.
me.
Claire is joy personified, which is 1 word,
Sure.
because it's
We'll let it
hyphenated.
hyphen, yeah.
Because joy on its own doesn't do it enough. Joy personified, she is definitely that. Significant, because the project wouldn't be the same without her. And skills.
Yeah, Skittles as in the sweet.
The sweet, not as in the
as
bowling
in the
pin.
bowling pin. I'm not a bowling
Yeah,
pin.
I just think Claire is like colourful like a bag of Skittles, but also if you ate 4 bags of Skittles,
Yeah, I've seen young people
That'd
done
be
that. It's
what,
really,
like, Claire
really
is.
scary.
yeah, well, it's because we had a picture in a prayer meeting of your Skittles on a bouncy castle.
Yeah,
That was an image of you.
it was. It was one of the first retreats I ever did with you. So Michael Palin is ... He is hospitality. Mike made me realise that the 6th love language is in fact food.
Yeah, it is.
And so you know that you are important in Michael's life when he feeds you, and he feeds almost everybody. So he is hospitality.
Yes, we are recording this after Wagamama's lunch that we've just had.
Other noodle shops are available. And Michael is... Oh, he's like binoculars. So he sees the sort of big picture, but he can also zero in. So when you when you're using binoculars, it's because you want the bigger picture. You want to be able to see the distance, but you also want to be able to zero in and see what's the detail and what kind of is coming next. So he's like a pair of binoculars.
Long 1 word. We might have to ban metaphors.
And he is laughter. Lots and lots of laughter. Belly laughter. That's hyphenated as well, because obviously 1 word isn't enough now.
Great.
You may live to regret this, Ben.
3 metaphors rather than 3 words. Can we do anything?
I mean, what are you going to do? Take away my pay?
No, your gadgets. You won't have your lovely podcast toy.
Great. So, today, prompted both by the new conference, we're running the 30th of March, the Refield Conference, and also a recent blog by Mike, we're going to be chatting a bit about leadership in the church, particularly young people leading in the church. So I guess that sort of starts off with, why do you see that as important?
Claire's obviously got a very bifocal perspective because your husband's a minister in the church, so that makes it interesting. I think my sort of passion for it is probably dual, really. It's having seen young people do all the roles of church leadership really well. So we see them lead, we see them do hospitality, we see them do welcome, we see them do preaching, we see them leading worship, we see them pray for people, we see them look for the lost, make people feel belong, build community, all those things that, you know, we would all say are vital and central to church communities. And yet the church hasn't quite been able to access young people as a resource to do that across the all-aged church. And so I my sort of big heart, and we talked about at the beginning of the year for 267, is how do we enable that to happen? So we're going to carry on releasing kids into their giftings and giving them opportunities to serve. But actually we've got to say to the church leadership, you've got to give them opportunities to... And that's what my blog was about, was to say actually you've got to get them in there, even if you're fearful and worried it's not going to go brilliantly. But then I've been an adult, part of adult services, and they've been a shambles because of my own input and other people's input. And so actually I think our fear is misplaced. I think the potential benefits absolutely far outweigh any worry or fear.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because recently I've been looking at how we create churches or how we create groups where our young people will feel that they're being nurtured to be resilient and buoyant, so that when life's issues do come their way, then they can either flex and bend with it and bounce back, or even better probably with a buoyancy image of kind of ride the wave out. And one of the words that came to mind was risk, because actually young people today are actually quite risk averse. I think there's something in the ether about you must be successful all the time, and I'm sure that social media plays its part, and a drivenness in our culture and kind of results orientated nature that they've grown up in, league tables, all the rest of it. I think we are dealing with quite a risk averse generation, and it's really, really important that we take risks and that we know that failure is just another stepping stone on the way to kind of living life to the full. And maybe actually, you know, how do we encourage our churches to take the risk to allow our young people to kind of exercise some of the gifts that they already have? They just need the way to use them. And let's face it, churches are not great at taking risks, are we? I mean, how many times have you sat in a meeting and someone said, oh, we did that before in 1973 and it didn't work then. So actually I think we need to try and speak out words of hope, not fear. And that means allowing spaces for our young people to really flex their muscles. And
I'm not pushing our blogs, but I wrote a blog a year ago when I was in America about is the church risk averse, and it was having spent a week in an American church, and it was really interesting. And so I think that they have similar problems that we have, but it's how they dealt with the failure or the potential fear of failure. So the American church, if it all goes completely wrong, will simply dust himself off and get back up. We might think, well, I'm never going to do that again because it was such a nightmare. But also I think it's they're willing to fail for what they might gain. We're not willing to risk because we're worried we're going to lose. And it's almost it's a positive attitude type thing. So our whole risk structure is built around I'm going to risk something as long as it doesn't mean so that I don't lose, basically. But whereas the Americans have this risk structure, so what if this works? Potentially it could be amazing, rather than saying if this works we won't mess up as bad as before. And so I think we've got to be able to be brave. I think we've definitely got to be braver. I think risk is a really unhelpful word, because risk says sort of casual or unplanned or, you know, on a whim, whereas actually I think we need to be brave and bold and much better words, but also do things that's never been done before, you know, to say actually just because there's no template for this or no model for this, that we just say, well, we're going to go for it, you know, and what's the worst that could happen? I mean, you know, and it's worrying because we've been talking to some churches recently where they've got thriving youth work, but it's a separate youth group and the young people aren't coming to church. And so this is one of the things that I think has almost snuck under the radar, that we think because a youth work is successful because it's got big numbers coming to youth group, therefore everything is fine, when actually the byproduct of that is they're not in church, so they're not building those relationships with whole church sort of family. So then when that family, you know, is struggling, that young people aren't there, and they feel it's not working. But also the young people have got so much to offer the wider church family. We've got to think of ways to meet and do youth work that integrates everyone much, much better, rather than saying, well, we've got a really good youth group, they meet on a Sunday night after church. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that is great, but that's not a good model, because it doesn't help the church survive and thrive and grow.
Yeah.
But that kind of does require meeting both ways, doesn't it? Because if we're going to build intergenerational church, which I totally believe is the most healthy model out there in terms of young people being able to build a faith that's not dependent on the smells and bells available at youth group, but actually is a faith that's based on Jesus, that kind of takes them into whatever environment the church near them or they're going to can kind of deliver. But we then, I think churches need to then be prepared to shift a little bit their way, so that those young people feel welcome, don't feel that they're completely alien and in a completely alien environment.
And maybe is it again though the whole thing we know about the teenage brain, it doesn't wake up till like 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is it actually, some churches do really creative evening services because they're not maybe tied as much to format, but we've almost still kept youth groups separate, rather than saying, actually, how great would it be to have youth group and church all messed up in one as an evening service, because you're taking away the factor that most teenage brains aren't awake till 11. So actually to say to them, why aren't you in morning church, is almost a bit of you're fighting two battles basically.
Yeah.
And I wonder which, Soul Survivor has that thriving afternoon congregation. It'd be interesting to know from then, their 10:30 congregation, is it mainly families and kids and less teenagers, which shows that even someone as high functioning and as amazing as Soul Survivor still struggles to get young people to come to Sunday mornings, because the brain's the brain at the end of the day,
And I guess sort of hitting on that a bit, one of the phrases you use in your blog that I sort of highlighted to me, you kind of only mentioned it briefly, was you said about by bringing youth into the forefront and the leadership of the church, we then give them a chance to see the sort of unique strengths of the current generation, is the terms you used.
Yeah.
So what do you think are the strengths of the current generation as opposed to the generation that's currently sort of you see almost as the church?
So you're saying that adults that currently are the core of adult church.
So what's the thing that a 17-year-old now has that they might not have had 30 years ago?
Wow, that's a really good question. Stunned silence across the room.
So you're
everyone needs to discuss that at home.
So what is it that the generation that's in leadership now has, or what is it that
what's it the upcoming generation have
so our
that
generation
they can bring
Z
to the table? Because I mean, we keep at 267, we're frequently putting young people in positions of leadership, and there's definitely something there that you don't see in a lot of churches currently.
I think it's the permission thing. I think it's is it Marianne Williamson's quote about, we're not afraid of the darkness, we're afraid of the light, because we're worried about me being everything that God's made me and all my gifts and stuff like that. They're worried if I do that too much, I'm going to make everyone else feel bad. And because Christians, we try and be the opposite of confident. We try, oh no, I mustn't push myself forward. And so she says, actually, no, we're more afraid of the light. Whereas she says we should be embracing our gifts, because by that you give other people permission to do the same. And I think there's something about young people being given permission to do the same. If you had a young person preaching or leading or just in a role, that another young person could possibly think, actually, I'd love to be able to explore that gifting, because they've seen it be allowed in a church, and I think if they can do it, so you've got adults and young people working alongside each other, you get that best of both worlds. Because I know most adults, if not all, when they hear a young person speak, they benefit from it. There's a growth there. I think we've moved on from that slightly sort of school assembly. Oh, isn't that nice? Little Johnny's playing a donkey in the play, and we clap. I think we have moved on from that, and I think most adults, particularly my generation, will look at a young person and go, "Yeah, that's brilliant." And so we've almost got to get over ourselves and think that the only way I'm going to benefit is by having an adult speak to an adult. We've got to be okay with a young person speaking to an adult, and not be prideful and not be arrogant, thinking that a 16-year-old can't teach me something. I mean, we were sat in a room last week where a 16-and-a-half-year-old talked about patience, and he had us eating out the palm of his hand because his first slide was that sort of YouTube loading up circular thing just waiting, and we were like thinking it had broken, his PowerPoint had broken, and he just suddenly said, yeah, don't you hate it when you've got to wait for stuff? And this guy just sort of just punched everyone in the stomach with his illustration, and we were like, yeah, you're completely right, I am really impatient. And
his line that got me was, God is not your Amazon Prime next day delivery. Sometimes you have to wait.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's so great, isn't it? Because actually, we all living in a world where everything is bang, instantaneous and deliverable.
And adults and young people are almost in that world together, isn't it? Yeah, adults and young people, we're both victims of that, really. And so for Sam to come in as a young person, even though he's huge, to stand and say, actually, you know, the way that you learn patience, he had 5 points, and they were really diverse 5 points. They were trust God, trust God, trust God, trust God, trust God. And it just reminded us that actually, if we're impatient, it's because we want it in our way, in our time, rather than saying, okay, God, you have your way. And that was, you know, and I wish every adult would have heard that talk, because I know 100% they would have benefited, their faith would have been grown, they'd have benefited from it. So why are we not saying on a Sunday morning, main 10:30 service, let's have teenagers speak, or a 6 o'clock main contemporary worship gathering? Why are they not speaking in front of adults? And it'd be okay, be normal, you know, it should be fine. Because we've said we need to stop saying girl preachers and boy preachers, we've just got to say preachers, because, you know, it is the same. We should be not saying a young person preaching, we just say our preacher tonight is, it just happens to be he's a year 11, or she's a year 11, you know. And so I think we've got to get over ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, and also isn't it interesting that, or doesn't it just make sense that a 35-year-old who's preaching tends to get a congregation of mostly 35-year-olds, or the same for older? So why is it that we're saying, oh, why aren't the youth coming to our main services? If all the people preaching, we talk a lot in the media at the moment about sort of representation, and a lot of audiences, so like Black Panther did particularly well with black audiences because there was a huge reaction to seeing a black lead in the main role.
Yeah.
And even if you have no interest in superhero movies, this is something I can... A mainstream AAA studio is making this movie. So by representing the youth in our normal services and getting them involved, I think that makes it a lot more accessible to youth.
And I think there's also this thing about breaking down always the power, like who has the power. So actually, I think traditionally we thought with children and youth, we do these things for our children and youth. We teach at our children and youth. Actually, I think we need to be thinking we're doing with. This is an adventure. We are on this adventure together. How do we do it? You know, all involved. You know, incorporating the kind of the whole gamut of skills and gifts, knowing that it's gonna look a little bit different. But we need to embrace that, not be scared of it.
Absolutely. And I think that is an excellent note to finish off on.
Do you not want to try out the jingle, Ben?
The jingle? Go ahead.
I don't remember how it goes. How did you start it?
I have no idea.
It was the 267 podcast in the morning, afternoon, probably not in the evening. See, there's a reason to know your giftings, that it's not singing.
And there's a reason to why we put that at the end of it.